There is a familiar pantomime played out whenever a new Prime Minister walks through the door of 10 Downing Street. Out comes the new broom reshuffle, in come the fresh faces, and once again the British public is asked to believe that a politician who was overseeing transport yesterday is somehow uniquely qualified to run agriculture, education, or defence today. And nowhere is this absurdity clearer than in the return of Angela Rayner as Housing Secretary. Having previously resigned over a controversy involving underpaid stamp duty on a flat in Hove, she returns to direct the very department governing housing and property legislation. Asking someone who can't navigate the rules on a single residential purchase to solve a national housing crisis does require something of a leap of faith. And let's not forget, this is the same Angela Rayner who was one of the key advocates for Keir Starmer's 1.5 million new homes in 5 years plan that has subsequently crashed and burned, just as those of us in the industry predicted that it would. But as baffling as Whitehall's musical chairs may be to the average voter, those of us working in demolition and construction can't afford to simply shake our heads and chuckle, because the exact same disconnect exists right here inside our own industry. Think about what happens when a minister decides to engage with the construction world. They don't travel to a freezing site in November to talk to a machine operator about working conditions. Instead, they schedule a round-table meeting with company principals, corporate directors, and boardroom executives. These are individuals who, despite their impressive job titles, are often every bit as far removed from the day-to-day grind of a site as the politicians sitting across from them. It's a dialogue between two sets of suits, both speaking the language of corporate governance, while neither knows the price of a ton of crushed concrete or the reality of a site deadline. The only time a minister actually sets foot on a working demolition or construction site is for the obligatory, carefully choreographed photo op. We all know the scene. The minister arrives flanked by a squad of public relations junkies looking entirely out of their depth. They're draped in a brand new high visibility vest that has clearly never seen a speck of dust, and they're wearing a hard hat that's 3 sizes too big and it sits awkwardly on their head. They hold a shovel for 5 seconds, smile broadly for the press photographers, and then vanish back into air-conditioned ministerial cars. Pure political theatre where the actual site workforce serves merely as a prop. This staged interaction highlights a much deeper problem. Take a look at the bodies claiming to speak for us, most notably the Construction Leadership Council, alongside the vast network of trade associations, regulatory panels, and standards committees. Perched atop these organisations, you will rarely find someone who has recently pulled on a pair of site boots. Instead, these boards are populated by career executives, corporate strategists, legal advisors, and professional committee goers. The result? We're bombarded with top-down mandates, academic sustainability frameworks, and bureaucratic compliance regimes drafted by people who have never operated an excavator, managed a project, or suffered the indignity of using a site toilet. When those setting the rules are so thoroughly insulated from the reality of work, the directives they produce inevitably fall short. We end up with well-meaning regulations that look splendid on paper but prove unworkable on a cramped site in central London or a muddy plot in West Yorkshire. We see sweeping environmental directives issued with zero appreciation of the realities on the ground. We're lectured on productivity by bodies composed of individuals who have never had to run a job to a commercial deadline. And this fundamental breakdown points to an urgent omission in our industry. We have plenty of organisations looking after corporate interests, lobbying for major contractors and publishing high-level white papers. What we lack is a dedicated, uncompromised industry body that genuinely represents the needs, the safety, and the practical concerns of the men and women in the trenches, the operatives, the site managers, and the specialists who actually deliver the work. In Westminster, a minister can mismanage a portfolio, screw up their own property taxes, and simply wait for the next political weather shift to be handed the reins again. In construction and demolition, there's no such luxury. If a site plan is wrong, gravity doesn't wait for the next select committee inquiry. If a safety system is flawed, the consequences are immediate and very real. If the government really wants to fix the nation's infrastructure and housing, it needs to stop relying solely on corporate boardrooms and PR photo calls. It's time to create a space at the policy table for an organisation that speaks directly for the workforce on the ground. Until the sharp end of the industry has a real representative voice, we'll continue to be governed by people in oversized hard hats.